Welcome to Catalyze. I'm your host, Allyson Horst from the class of 27. We have with us today Nandini Kanthi from the class of 27. Nandini is a first-year scholar from Cary, North Carolina, studying public policy and neuroscience at Carolina. Nandini is the co-founder and CEO of Sensible, a startup that invented a patent-pending menstrual hygiene product that uses naturally discharging menstrual blood to screen for cervical diseases. Nandini, thank you for joining us today. I first met you at Discovery Weekend just about a year ago. What ultimately drew you to Carolina, and what factors did you consider?
So I actually grew up not too far from here. I grew up in Cary. So UNC Chapel Hill has very much been a part of my childhood, coming here on the weekends with family, or knowing friends that went here. And it just felt really nice to have a place that felt so familiar, but also would give me enough of an opportunity and I guess distance per se from home that I could, kind of develop and grow independently. And also it's just an amazing school and an amazing place for me to pursue what I'm interested in career-wise. I'm, for now, let's say, interested in something in the healthcare field. And UNC has a great ecosystem for that. So very lucky.
Yeah, amazing. And then just last year in high school, you're heavily involved in the Future Health Professionals, which is also known as HOSA, as well as policymaking in your hometown. How are you continuing to blend your background in policymaking and science through your academics and extracurriculars at Carolina?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm actually a double major in neuroscience and public policy here. So been very fortunate to be in a lot of classes where I've been able to kind of mold my interests together. Like in my public policy classes, when we would get the opportunity to write briefs on a topic that we're interested in. So last semester, I spent heavily researching a topic that's very, very close to my heart and that I'm very passionate about, which is mental health access and equity, and wrote a policy brief actually about how a lot of states in the US don't really give children adequate mental health care, and how that's actually leading to a lot of human rights violations in the states, which a lot of people don't know about. And so it's really given me the opportunity, and UNC makes it really easy, also being a liberal arts school, for me to be able to blend those interests together.
Yeah, and I think we're in the same policy class last semester.
Yeah. And
so I remember your presentation, and it was so in-depth. How did you get drawn to that topic specifically?
So actually in high school, I was on the debate team, and we had this one topic about mental health equity and how insurance companies are constantly evading paying for mental health care. And while I researched that, I found this really interesting article how in Illinois, there were parents who were giving up custody of their child to the state just so their child could get mental health care. Because when you become a foster kid of the state, North Carolina is mandated to provide and cover all of your healthcare costs. And that's actually something that's happening in 21 states across the US. And the last time the government wrote a report about it was in 2003. And I thought that was really interesting because it's a huge, huge problem and no one's talking about it. And the one article I found from a national source was NPR in 2019. And so I got kind of lucky coming across that article, reached out to the reporter and just did more research on it. And then throughout high school and in my first semester, leading into the second semester here at Carolina, I really kind of delved into that topic, talked to more kind of stakeholders and was trying to understand what exactly was going on.
Wow, that's amazing. No, I honestly did not know any of that information at all now until you said that. But on the topic of public health and access to medical devices, so Sensible, which is the organization that you co-founded and lead as CEO. When did you start thinking of this specific issue, and how did that cultivate to Sensible?
Yeah, so it was kind of something that was inspired by personal experiences, but also kind of circumstance allowed for Sensible to become what it is. So I'll kind of start at the beginning. So I was part of HOSA in high school, which was a really great opportunity for me to engage in a career field that I was interested in. And one of the competitive events for the organization was called Medical Innovation. So a couple of my friends and I were kind of teamed up for that, and we had to come up with this hypothetical kind of medical device or innovation. And we were kind of thinking on this, what is a problem that's really close to our heart and what's something that we could come up with. And a lot of us had a lot of shared experiences with kind of periods in our like menstrual health, like a lot of experiences in our culture where we felt almost ostracized while we were on our periods. Like, for example, me, myself, I'm a Hindu. That's the religion my family practices. And kind of part of that, when I'm on my period, I'm not allowed to go to the temple or, go into certain rooms in the house because I'm considered quote unquote unclean or dirty. And this was kind of a sentiment that a lot of my friends also experienced in their houses, but we had never talked about it. Like, I've never had a conversation with any of my friends about it until we were in a room trying to think of, a problem to solve. And we were really getting, kind of deep about it. But for something that's such a shared experience among millions, almost thousands of people around the world, no one was talking about it. And we were like, how do we address this issue? And kind of in that research, we also kind of came across the fact that in a lot of underdeveloped, underserved areas that disease incidence rates were extremely high. And naturally, that was because these areas didn't have the capital to subsidize healthcare facilities or, professionals like doctors that could actually serve those areas, take care of them, those populations. And so kind of combining those two things, we came up with Sensible, which is a diagnostic menstrual pad aimed at screening for cervical diseases in underserved populations. And our concept was, what's the singular way your bodies expel blood naturally, right? You don't need to poke a needle, draw blood, send it to a lab, get it processed. The one way your body expels blood naturally is menstruation. So why aren't we taking advantage of that more? And so we were like, what if we could create a device that kind of, while you're on your period, it kind of collects the blood, processes it, and spits out a result for whether or not you're positive for, and our initial use case is cervical cancer. So that's what we're screening for. So whether or not you're at risk for cervical cancer. And so that was kind of the concept. It's very similar to like when you were during the pandemic, like when you would have to take a COVID test at home, it's a very similar technology to that. So like in minutes, you'd be able to know. And so our concept was make diagnostics cheaper. Our device has the potential to screen for something at $5 or less compared to a $300 pap smear. And so our concept was just make healthcare more accessible and in the process be able to destigmatize menstruation by associating it with a life-saving kind of construct. So kind of tackling two problems at once.
That is amazing. I never would have thought of like the naturally dispelling blood and like using that in that sense. That is wow. I can't believe you guys came up with that in high school at that. That is fascinating.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, but on that same note, so you were saying you co-founded it with your fellow high school mates. And so like, is your team expanding today or who makes up that team in general?
Yeah. So originally the team started with 4 people, including myself. And then after that, a couple people graduated and then the team kind of structure changed a lot. And down the line, we had to recruit more to kind of sustain operations. So we went to our first kind of source of people were underclassmen at our high school. So we recruited who our current COO and CTO are. And we, after that, needed more and more manpower. So we actually recruited our first class of interns this past fall. So our team currently consists of 15 people with both executive and interns. And we have people with talents from all over the place. We have people who are really, really well versed in marketing and promotion, people who are very well versed in research skills and product development, finances. And so it's really important to both me and my team that we have kind of a diverse set of perspectives and skills on the team. And with a product like this, it was also very important to get people from different cultures and different kind of ways of life. Because when you think about a topic like menstruation, for something that's so stigmatized, it's stigmatized in different ways for different communities. So if we really want to address the problem at its core and do so properly, we want to make sure that the minds behind it are kind of contributing to those ideas and making sure that we really are addressing the problem in every way possible.
Yeah. And this is a massive undertaking of this, just addressing this issue entirely, as well as managing this many people. So what obstacles have you faced while doing this? Yeah,
so I mean, naturally, anytime you work with a group of people, like people you bring onto your team, it's not always going to work out. And I think kind of in the day and age that we live in today, it's very easy to get interested in a lot of things. So people who are very passionate about a project for 6 months may not retain that kind of passion 6 months later. And as kind of a leader and kind of working with a team like this, it's very important to kind of distill that passion or reinstill that passion in team members. So I think for me, it's really important to give team members a lot of autonomy. I think a lot of times it's very easy to kind of tell and then they just do. But to make people really invested in the project, and the reason they were brought onto the team in the first place is because they were passionate about this idea. So to give them kind of a stake in the game and be like, hey, if you have any ideas, like I would love to hear them and let's make them happen. And so just making people excited really every day about what they're working on, and then just allowing them to explore themselves, learn and grow at the same time. Because me too, I'm also learning and growing. So it's very important that they're also doing the same.
Yeah. And so you're CEO of Sensible. So what does that role entail for you?
So a big part of it is meeting people, kind of making connections and kind of providing a vision and direction for Sensible. I have some amazing, very, very talented team members who kind of handle operations and product development and are very, very well-versed in very niche areas, but are also very good at handling a lot of other tasks. And so for me, it's really just making sure everything fits together, like the puzzle pieces really do go together, and that, everyone's on top of their game and that we are growing, not just kind of working in a stagnated space, but just making sure we're growing and people know who we are. And kind of as CEO, it's just providing the vision, I think I'd like to say.
Yeah, that's amazing, especially as a first year. Having all this experience under your belt, I can't even imagine how impactful that is just for you and your future experiences. Truly amazing.
Thank you.
And then you are filing for a patent, right? Or are you patent pending for Sensible?
We are patent pending. We've already filed. So thankfully we're just waiting now. It'll take a hot minute, but.
So how is that journey of like filing that patent for you? And have you ever done that before?
So I've never done it before. We did file a provisional about a year ago. So I went through somewhat of a similar process. But for the first time, I've never done anything this kind of intense of an undertaking. And I had some very amazing team members who kind of had done something similar and worked a lot on it. But for me, it was something entirely new. And we had, so actually a grant that we won about a year and a half ago from Lemelson MIT up in Boston. They provided us a pro bono IP agent, Shirley Fung, amazing Akono IP, plugging that. But she was very, very helpful in educating us about the process, and how, like, when you're trying to file for IP, the idea has to be novel, and but there's still ways that you can kind of deviate from existing technology, protect yourself. Like, that's very important, like working in a space like this. And when you're talking about something very passionately, a lot of people take advantage of that. So make sure that you're protected. And so we just had very amazing people kind of educate us about the process, and hold our hand throughout the whole thing. And so we got very lucky with that. And
you were just talking about that grant, and that grant was just a little under $8,000, right?
Yeah, $7,500.
Yeah. And what did that grant mean to you? Not only just as like an inventor, but a female inventor for this very specific topic that you feel very passionately about?
It felt amazing. I think it was really the first in a series of kind of validations that we were on the right path and that we were really doing something very meaningful. To have an organization like that kind of back you and invest in you and be like, hey, we believe in this idea, and provide us like not only just money, but resources and mentors. We had a very amazing mentor, Dr. Esther Brooks, an amazing individual, who would check in on us every week if we needed to connect with somebody at different universities who were very much experts in this field. She wouldn't hesitate to make those connections happen. And when we would make mistakes, she'd call us out on it. And so like she really was somebody that kind of guided us through the process. And in that kind of throughout that journey, she really made us both experience let us know that as female inventors working on a project that is so stigmatized, she helped us kind of understand how to balance that stigma. Like for me, for example, when you're talking about a topic that a lot of other people feel uncomfortable about, there are moments where, like at a couple of presentations, people would be like, don't put that image on your slideshow. Like it would be a picture of like a uterus like bleeding or something. And it was like a clip art. Like it wasn't even like a real image, but they'd be like, it's too raw. Like we don't want to see that. Like it'll make the audience uncomfortable. And I'm like, how else are we supposed to explain what we're doing? Like, menstruation is a very real process, and to explain what Sensible is, we need to talk about that context. And so she would kind of help us kind of balance don't throw it all at them at once, because a lot of people get scared. But at the same time, don't hide what you're trying to say, because you are talking about very important, very real things. And it sucks that sometimes you have to do that. You have to play that balancing act. But she kind of guided us through the process of teaching us how to really educate the public in a productive way.
And this sounds like a massive responsibility and a lot of experience going into this. And you're a first-year student, so how do you manage Sensible along with other extracurriculars, along with academics? Like, how do you do all this?
I'm not even gonna lie, I feel like I don't. But to be honest, I think first semester was really hard because college was very new for me. So I was trying to learn college, trying to learn adulthood, and kind of keep up with stuff that I was already doing, Sensible being one of those things. And so I definitely took some time in the beginning. And I think one thing that's very important, I think a lot of people feel afraid to do this, is to say, hey, I need some time. I need some time for myself, so that I can come back and, work on this project and, in a much more stronger space. And I definitely struggled with that. I'm not going to lie. The first few weeks of college were really hard, like keeping up with Sensible and keeping up with classes, learning this new system of life. But I think it's very important because if you yourself are not operating in the way, like you're not in your top shape, then you can't really offer what you have the potential to offer to your team or to whatever kind of initiative you're taking under. So whether it's like a couple days or a week, like sometimes it's nice to kind of step away and be like, take that space, recoup, rejuvenate, and then come back even stronger. And so I didn't really learn. That's something that I didn't really know, and I learned, and I'm very grateful for, actually. So I think it's made me even more capable of working on this project.
For sure, just a little mental break and like you come back 10 times better. I feel the same exact way. But for aspiring entrepreneurs, do you have any advice you can give them for balancing life and work as well as just extracurriculars?
Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, it's very important to because a lot of times when you're especially starting out, you're not working on your own time, you're working on somebody else's time. Like you're trying to meet people, get their advice, get their mentorship, and they have a schedule that's already set. You're the one that needs to kind of change things around. So it's really important to just be flexible. I think and really be on time to things, be on top of it, and just talk to as many people as you can. I think that's my biggest advice. Don't ever be afraid to take a risk because, as we've heard the very famous quote, you miss 100% of the chances you never take. And I very much live by that. And so it's don't when someone says no to you, kind of keep going after them. Don't take no for an answer, and really push for what you believe in. A lot of people will try to kind of scare you away and be like, I don't really believe in this idea. It's too early, to really say how you're going to do. But if you don't believe in your idea, nobody else is going to. And the more you believe in it, the more you can make others believe in it. So just really be passionate about what you're doing, and full send, no hesitation, full send.
Mm-hmm. I love full send, immediately.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And you really embody so many leadership qualities, not only in your role at Sensible, but just in general, just talking to you, truly, you were just so passionate about it. But this past summer, you went to Minnesota on a sea kayaking and backpacking expedition with Outward Bound. What were the leadership skills that you took away from this experience? And how did you apply that to your role in Sensible today?
Yeah. So one really big thing was, I think, listening. A lot of times when obviously you're in the woods and it's very there's not a lot of stimulus around you aside from, the birds chirping and stuff. And so, but in being in such an isolated area away from your family for so long, I think a lot of being with the group, it wasn't just me, it was a lot of the people in the group too were feeling very, very down. It's very hard because it's I've never camped before. I've never, lived kind of where every day my only goal is just to kind of survive and go to sleep at night. And so it was very tough the first few weeks. And just being there for others on the team and kind of listening to how they were feeling about the situation kind of empowered me to be more open about how I was feeling. I think I definitely bottle up a lot of my emotions, and really being on this expedition kind of taught me that it was okay to kind of let loose and kind of open up. And the other thing was just you never know what the other person is going through. And again, it's very easy when you're going through so many emotions at once and in a new environment, it's very easy to not say anything and kind of pretend like you feel one way when you don't feel that way at all. So really listen and observe and just be there for people no matter what. And if there's a misunderstanding, it's okay, like be mature about it and be kind of go to them and kind of resolve that conflict. That was actually a big lesson we learned. One of the best lessons I learned this summer was conflict resolution. And Outward Bound is amazing. They had this really cool acronym called C4, concern, feeling, ownership, and request. And I literally use it for everything. I use it to talk to my professors. I use it to talk to friends. It's just a way of like expressing your feelings. Like obviously when you feel angry or upset about something, like your emotions are not intact sometimes, and you get very like emotionally charged and are not able to communicate what you feel like communicating. And so that just kind of provided some structure in my head. But yeah, just people should know. It's a great abbreviation. Please use.
Yeah, no, that experience makes you really reconsider every aspect of your life. And you're like, oh my goodness, I took everything for granted. It's fascinating talking to people afterwards, and you're like, I'm in different headspace completely. It's amazing.
No, yeah.
But on that same note of summer experiences, so where are you going for Civic Collab? We just found out, a couple of days ago. So where are you going for that?
I'm going to Annapolis, Maryland.
Nice.
So very excited. I'm going to be working with this organization, kind of helping them put together some grant opportunities for some local nonprofits to kind of alleviate poverty. And so I'm very excited to have an amazing group that I'm going with too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And what do you hope to take away from like this upcoming summer?
I think maybe like, I don't know, I've never lived with a lot of people like that in one space while also working with them. I think coming to college, one thing that I really appreciated was alone time because you're constantly surrounded by people. So I think I just feel like the summer is going to really teach me how to balance that even more, work and personal life. And at the same time, be able to kind of meet people who are kind of going through challenges and really see firsthand what's happening. I feel like I haven't had a lot of experience kind of in my life witnessing that. I feel like you read about a lot of things in the news, you hear about a lot of things from people and stuff like that, but to really interact one-on-one with stakeholders, I think would be a really crucial experience that I hope to take away from the summer. Yeah,
nobody talks enough about alone time. I feel like that was one of the biggest things when I got to college. I'm like, when can I be by myself? And it's just like never. So it's going to be, very fascinating to see how that balances out.
Yeah.
But my last question, it has become a staple within all my interviews. What has been your favorite Carolina memory this far?
I think for me, definitely going to the stadium at night. I actually did it for the first time during Discovery Weekend with a group of scholars. And it was just we were just like running around, being a little silly. And you just like in a stadium so big, you feel so small. And kind of looking up at the sky late at night, you really get to see it. It's like a great view from there. And so it was just nice to kind of experience some time with friends in a place that isn't as crowded as maybe the other buildings or quads on the campus. And then I did the same thing actually the first week of school. So it just seems to be like a recurring theme at the start of every semester. So maybe again, very soon, I will do it again.
Yeah, for sure. I know it's very fun going in the stadium when nobody's there. It's so nice and quiet. But thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. It's been amazing and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Catalyze. I'm Allyson Horst from the class of 27, and that was Nandini Kanthi, a first-year scholar and CEO and co-founder of Sensible. You can let us know what you thought of this episode by emailing us at communications@morehead-cain.org, finding us on social media at Morehead-Cain, or by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.